You go to the store and you buy a product that has microbeads in it and think, oh, this face wash is going to be great. My face is going to be so clean. I'm not going to have that makeup residue or whatever residue left over on my body. I'm going to buy this X soap with microbeads in it. In reality, Lisa was explaining to me, it doesn't make you cleaner. You're not necessarily cleaner, and you worked hard in changing the vocabulary from marine debris to plastic pollution, and microbeads are among plastic pollution.
Right. In 2009, when I sat down with my 3 other co-founders of Plastic Pollution Coalition, we really wanted to take on the American Chemistry Council and their language because we felt that it was extremely deceptive. The majority of the waste in our oceans is plastic, and yet the term of art that was pushed by the petrochemical industry and their lobby was marine debris, which sounds totally innocuous. Marine debris, it seems like it just popped up in the ocean. It doesn't point to the source, which is on land. It doesn't point fingers at what the majority of the problem is, which is plastic. And it doesn't lead toward any constructive solution. So we decided at that point that we wanted to change the lexicon of this field, to change the word from marine debris to plastic pollution. And you know, it's not just semantics. It's said that a problem well stated is half solved. And so we consciously put the name plastic pollution in the name of our organization, Plastic Pollution Coalition. And at the time in 2009, if you would Google plastic pollution, you wouldn't come up with much. But since we founded that organization and started to do a lot of work with scientists, with great communicators, the term has entered the vocabulary. And I'm proud to say that working with 5 gyres, I was able to produce the first environmental law journal dedicated entirely to legal articles on the subject of plastic pollution. And the name of the journal, Plastic Pollution. And all the articles about plastic pollution, not marine debris. And one of those articles was written by my colleague, Marcus Erickson, and an attorney about a model microbead ban. And that traveled across the country, and several states have passed bans. And you know, these plastic microbeads in our body washes, in our toothpaste, in our face washes, this is just an example of an egregious single-use plastic that's just a design disaster, because you use this product, it's meant to wash down the drain, where it goes immediately into our rivers, streams, and lakes, and there's no way to reclaim it, so it becomes part of the food chain, and then you eat it as fish. And one of the things we made that you saw in the film is that the plastics in the oceans biomagnify the pollutants in our environment. So things that have been banned forever, like DDT and PCBs, they persist forever, like the plastic, and the plastic gathers it, so it becomes part of our food chain.
Mr. Irons, you know, you trudged through many different countries, layers and layers of trash. What was the most interesting thing that you discovered in making this film?
I think the most interesting thing was actually nothing to do with what you saw on the screen, but was what I touched on before we saw it, which is that there are so many environmental organizations, there are so many magazines, there are so many reports, and they're all out there, and they're all, you know, we hang on by our teeth to publish the magazines or to fund the reports, and they're all so diffuse. And on occasions like this week that you've just had, and which sadly I've missed, people who care about it get together, people who've done these projects and these surveys and made these reports get together and they tell each other about them. And I think that the big boys who are making the toothpaste and who are making the wrappings and the milk cartons and the bottles and all of it, they're laughing all the way to the bank. They look at them, they're so passionate and they're so disorganized. They're nothing to worry about. And that is why I believe that we have to get a serious organization which pulls together all the science, all the research, all the passion, all the people, all the organizations, all the publications into one site and allow people to see where the cross-references are, where there are people who you can collaborate with, and where the problems are. How do we deal with these enormous commercial companies? How do we deal with government? How do we make sure that it doesn't lose by one vote? How do we set up an organization whereby some of you here who are in the, what I call, like me, downhill slope of our mountain of a life, can do something with those maybe ill, maybe well-gotten gains that we have in the bank, and put it towards something which will make a difference. But unless we present our arguments in a cohesive, organized way, then where do you put your money? How can you help? We all want to help. We all want to get these things changed. I went to Jakarta. I talked to the mayor of Jakarta because that's where we filmed those canals. And I took the film to show it to him. And he was appalled. He's now the president. However, he was appalled. I said, can't you do something about that? He said, if I put out garbage containers for people to put their rubbish into, they will be stolen and they will be lived in. He has problems. There are no simple solutions. But what we have to do is to provide money to garner research so that we have the ammunition to attack these companies who are trading on our health. We have to be messengers. We have to make movies which make people care and make people educated. We have to find ways to show such a film, what we're trying to do, to every child in the world. But that costs money, and so we have to organize. I suppose that's what I mean. And that's what I've learned from making this film, from talking to the National Assembly in France, those politicians, to talking to politicians in England. You know, they are all concerned about the main chance, votes. There ain't no votes in garbage, believe me. And there ain't no votes in spitting in the face of industrialists. You know, I'm sure most of you are Republicans, because I suspect this is a Republican area.
You can't assume. You can't assume.
Well, then you're pathetic Democrats. But whatever you are, I hope you have some influence on your politicians, because frighten your politicians and you'll get change. But you have to get your ammunition together or they'll laugh at you. Secondly, we are at the bottom of that pyramid. We are the ones at the bottom. All the other guys are making money out of us. If we demand, we have enormous power. But we have to focus on what we demand. And that's why we have to organize. So we all demand the same thing. Get that done. get food labelled, get packaging taxed, so that companies will want to sell stuff with the minimum amount of packaging, and certainly make unreclaimable, unrecyclable packaging taxed. The electronics industry, say to them, you make fortune out of us, but you have to design a production cycle whereby you will take it back, and so that when we give in our iPhone 5 and you sell us an iPhone 6, you take the iPhone 5 back and reuse what you use, because it's all nasty stuff, and at the moment we sort of send it to Africa or somewhere, or they die taking it apart. That doesn't matter because it's a long way away. But no, there should be legislation so that anything that is made that is not recyclable is returned to the manufacturer. And I believe in 50 years' time we will look back and say, of course, it is how we live. Now we're struggling in the muck. And this is why we're disorganized, and that's what I've learned.
And I have a feeling that both Lisa and Marcus can weigh in on this, because this is something that we talked about earlier, which is you have, having worked in DC, I know this all too well, you have massive lobbying firms with a lot of money, and then you have grassroots campaigns with a lot of passion, but not necessarily a lot of money. And you spoke about the petrol industry. I mean, when you are up against lobbyists, when you are up against large industries with infinite amounts of money and resources, trying to argue finite resources on our planet, what do you do?
Yeah, I have a good example from the state of California. Our real problem is that the manufacturers of these poisonous substances, they are making money, which is what corporations are meant to do, and the more disposable it is, the more it's used, the more money they make. They have no interest in making things that are reusable. They don't care if it pollutes, because all the costs are externalized for the rubbish. So I think the beginning of the problem is that we have given corporations the power of people with Citizens United. We need to reform campaign finance, because money talks. And so our voices are minimized by these powerful lobbying interests like the petrochemical business. And so an example is, it took us 10 years to pass the first statewide plastic bag law in America. We did that this legislative session in California, and I've been working on it all those 10 years. The amount of money thrown at the legislators to delay it, to not do it, is just amazing. But what we were able to do is go to the local level where people understand the problem and they're dealing with it. Their tax dollars are going toward cleaning up the beach and the storm drains from plastic pollution, instead of more teachers and firefighters and police. And these people at the local level are saying no, we're going to ban plastic bags. So we ended up having 127 different jurisdictions passing local bans on plastic bags, and eventually the state was the last domino. Okay, we're going to pass statewide legislation. So now the state of Hawaii is covered by a plastic bag ban because they did it island by island, and California is covered. But the fight's not over, because now that we passed the ban, and 65% of the public is in support of it, and a good deal of California's population has lived under plastic bag ban very happily for the past year. The industry is coming back and trying to raise funds to have a ballot initiative to take the bag ban away. And so it's a never-ending fight against the money of the self-interested corporations. And so what I see is that for our voices to really matter, we need to get the money out of politics, and we need to take away that corporate citizenship, because corporations are in the business of making money, and they do not factor in the externalized social and environmental costs of their products.
They're not people. Bottom line for you, as far as corporations or lobbying is concerned, when it comes to money in Washington?
We're far outspent. I mean, you really have to work with what you've got. I mean, if we had the money to organize, I mean, I would love to see your vision come to fruition.
We are in Florida. This festival is partnership with Monaco. Monaco is where everybody goes not to pay tax. They have huge amounts of money. You have to tap these people. They've made their millions and they want to give back. But they'll only give back to something that they think is going to work, because they're not going to waste their money. So don't tell me that I'm living in a dream world when I suggest that. It's just we aren't attacking the problem in the right way. There is huge money fighting us. We don't need quite that much money, but we have to have money to raise the level, raise the barrier in publicity and in educating people in the problem. And that money is available. People are basically good people who want to use their well-gotten gains for the good of the world.
I agree that we do tap into people's basic goodness every chance we have. I have one hand in the ocean, one hand out asking for the funds to stay there. But the point I was going to make is that what we have, the currency we have to work with is communication, mass communication. You talk to the millennial generation, the young people of this generation. I grew up I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, and there I saw mass globalization, the globalization of stuff. This generation is the globalization of ideas. And what we do, we grab onto social media. We don't have the kinds of money. I mean, we're being outspent 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1 sometimes when we push these bans. But when we found these microbeads in the Great Lakes, we published a paper. It's about a year ago we published a paper. It went to a Senate floor vote in California in about 8 months. And that was, we got 15,000 signatures just within a couple months of the paper being released, saying this has got to end. This is a horrible design product, industry must respond. And we got people, and now it's tens of thousands, and we need your help to add tens of thousands more. It works. When people then, when they sign petitions, and they put the pressure on the companies making the products, then they respond. And the policymakers want to keep their constituents happy, and they respond. So people, mass communication, right now, that's our currency, because I can't match them dollar for dollar.
And you have